teenage girl sets a monster loose in his mean dad's house, which causes chaos in the entire city as well. Today, I will be recapping the 2015 horror comedy Goosebumps. Spoilers ahead. The teenager, Zach Cooper, and his mother Gail move from New York to the small town of Madison, Delaware. His new neighbor is a girl named Hannah. They introduces themselves to each other, then her father, Mr. Shivers, tells Zach to stay away from them. Later that day, he watches a video of him and his dad playing baseball. Zach's dad died last year. The next morning, Zach and his mom go to a high school in the community where Zach's mom is introduced as the assistant principal. At that same moment, Zach meets his new friend, Champ. Champ tells Zach about the school dance and gives him his contact details so they could go together in case Zach found someone to dance with. That same evening, Zach goes into the backyard to throw out trash and caught off guard by Hannah, who jumps from her window to where he is. Zach asks her if she knows some fun places where they could go, but instead, she holds his hand and they head towards the forest. There, Zach is astonished by what seems to be an abandoned amusement park in the forest. Zach tells Hannah his dad passed away last year and now it's just he and his mom. Hannah also tells him she has never seen her mom since she was born. In the next scene, Zach is shown accompanying Hannah to her house. Even though Hannah uses a secret passage at the backyard, Hannah's dad, Mr. Shivers, sees them and threatens Zach that something really bad will happen to him. On the very next night, while Zach is doing his math homework, he sees Hannah and Shivers arguing in the window, followed by Hannah screaming. He rushes over to make sure she's okay, but Shivers tells Zach that there was no scream. Zach calls the police and Officer Stevens and Brooks arrive at Shivers' door. He explains that Hannah went back home with her mom in London, and the scream was from a horror movie that he was watching on his HD TV, which has surround sound. Officer Stevens and Officer Brooks end up warning Zach the penalty for filing a false police report. Later, Zach sees Shivers talking to Hannah in the window, knowing that he was right after all. He tells Lorraine not to go in his room because he has a test to study for. This is a cover-up as he is actually going to sneak in Shivers' house and save Hannah. Zach meets up with Champ, after calling him and making him believe they were actually going to the school dance tonight when actually he needs his help to infiltrate Shivers' house. When they make it to the office upstairs, they see a bookshelf full of manuscripts. Each one is titled a different book in the Goosebumps book series. Champ grabs the one titled, The Abominable Snowman of Pasadena, and wonders why this one, and all the others, have locks on them and questions if there is some sort of key that unlocks them. Zach finds the key nearby on the desk and unlocks it to prove a point. Hannah, upon entering the room, tries to smash a friend's with a baseball bat, mistaking them for burglars. Zach falls down, accidentally letting the book open. The real abominable snowman pops out of the pages, then smashes through the walls of the room, leaves the house, and escapes into town, knocking the other manuscripts to the ground. The one titled, Night of the Living Dummy, is unlocked as well. Zach, Hannah, and Champ follow the abominable snowman to a local ice rink, where it attacks them. Luckily, Shivers sucks it back into its book. On the way home, Zach finally realizes that Shivers is actually R.L. Stine, the author of Goosebumps. Once back at home, Stine tells Hannah to start packing, but Hannah doesn't want to move since she's grown attached to Zach. Zach comes back in, with Champ, asking Stine for an explanation on what's going on. So Stine explains to the kids what's going on. He says that when he was a kid, the other kids would make fun of him, so he created his own friends, monsters, that he imagined would terrorize all the neighborhood kids that made fun of him. But then one day, they all became real and unstable, so Stine wrote the Goosebumps series to lock them up inside their own manuscripts from where they came from and made harmless copies to sell around the world, making him a famous author. While picking up the books, Stine realizes that one is missing. Sitting in the chair is Slappy, the dummy from Night of the Living Dummy, who was angry about being imprisoned. He burns his manuscript and flees the house with the others. Slappy begins rampaging through Madison with the haunted car and opens the book, Your Plant Food, releasing evil creepers plants which destroys the telephone towers. The Body Squeezers, from Invasion of the Body Squeezers, frees Officer Stevens, Officer Brooks, and the entire Madison Police Department, where they accompany Slappy into the building. R.L. Stine, Zach, Hannah, and Champ cut through a cemetery, where Hannah gets caught on a statue and Zach sets her free. They were about to kiss when Zach sees Hannah glowing ghostly blue in the moonlight, revealing her to be a ghost. Before he questions Hannah, the four get chased by the graveyard ghouls from Attack of the Graveyard Ghouls. They barely escape and make it to the high school. Once alone without Hannah around, Zach privately questions Stein about this, and he tells Zach that Hannah is not real, but a Goosebumps character created because he was so lonely, and thought having a daughter would make him happier, most likely Hannah from the ghost next door. Hannah comes along to tell them that she and Champ found the typewriter. Stein grabs the typewriter and goes to the auditorium to start writing the story, while Zach, Hannah, and Champ warn everyone. Zach warns the students, the school staff, and his mom about the monsters. At first, they don't believe him. But they finally do believe Zach when the giant praying mantis takes the student close to the window. Outside on the football field, Slappy and the lawn gnomes release almost every monster in the Goosebumps series, including Murder the Clown. In the auditorium, Slappy finds and breaks Stein's fingers by slamming the typewriter's case shut on his fingers, preventing Stein from finishing the story. The moon comes by and Hannah starts glowing again, but with Champ and Taylor to witness it. Champ couldn't believe his eyes, and he also asks Zach if he actually wants to date an imaginary person, but Zach replies he does not care if she is imaginary or not. Zach, Hannah, R.L. Stein, and Champ leave Madison High on a school bus, and the monsters then start following them, and now the students and staff are safe. The mantis knocks the bus over, and the werewolf and the abominable snowman open the door, but Stein isn't driving. It's a tackle dummy which is triggered to a bomb, causing the monsters, but Slappy and the haunted car, to blow up to buy Stein and the gang time to write the story. Stein and the kids were actually on a different bus and they go to the abandoned amusement park, and Stein tells Zach what to write because the story has to be fully complete in order to work, but then Slappy finds them since the werewolf tracked their scent, and Slappy opens the book titled The Blob That Ate Everyone. Once the blob came to life, it devoured the fun house, where they were hiding, and Stein tells the kids to climb to the top of the abandoned Ferris wheel and finish the story while he distracts the monsters. The blob swallows Stein, but he's still alive as Slappy watches and begins tormenting Stein, saying that being trapped in the blob is like being locked inside Stein's manuscripts. At that moment, Slappy notices that Stein doesn't have the manuscript that's going to defeat them, and sees that Zach has it. Slappy then sends the monster army after them on the Ferris wheel. Zach finished the story and put the final page of it in a leather-bound manuscript. The mantis chews the bolts, causing the wheel to roll down the hill and crash. Luckily, they survive. As Zach is about to open the book, he realized that if he did, all the monsters, including Hannah, will be sucked in too. Hannah then tells Zach that she knew she wasn't real after all, and she opens the book herself. All of the monsters are then sucked back to the book one by one. When the blob gets sucked in the book, it spits R.L. Stein out. Slappy then begins to strangle Stein only for him to kick Slappy into the vortex. Zach and Hannah kiss goodbye, then she lets go of him. Hannah was sucked in the book as well, and Champ closes the book. Sometime later, Madison High School is seen being repaired and reopens. Stein gets a new job as the new English teacher, as well as him now dating Lorraine. Zach and Champ have Stein's class the last period of the day, and he gives them his first lesson about how every story ever told, including Goosebumps, can be broken down into three very notable parts: the beginning, the middle, and finally, the twist. After class, Zach walks with Stein in the hallway. Then Hannah appears in the hallway. Stein told Zach that he wrote her back into existence with another book. He then sets her book on fire and puts it in the trash so Hannah doesn't have to go back in it. Zach and Hannah kiss and leave school holding hands. A few minutes later, Stein grabs his suitcase and is about to leave school himself, but then he suddenly sees the typewriter typing by itself, writing, "The Invisible Boy's Revenge." The ends with Stein's scream in horror.